Have you ever wondered what kind of mental gymnastics you have to go through in order to vote for Donald Trump? Most of us who didn't vote for him have never really put much thought into that exercise because for most of us, one or two things end up being deal breakers. But let's flip that around. What are the things that you would need to ignore as a Trump voter to pull the lever for Trump, knowing what you know now? And this is not a comprehensive list, but this should give you a clear idea of how the party of law and order, the voters for law and order, the extent to which they had to go through to justify pulling the lever for Trump is really something else. And this is not even a comprehensive list. So here's what you have to ignore. You have to ignore that he was mentioned 64 times in the Epstein report. You have to ignore that he pled the fifth when he was under oath 97 times. You have to ignore the 34 felony convictions. You have to ignore the 91 criminal charges. You have to ignore the 26 sexual assault allegations. You have to ignore the 6 bankruptcies, the 5 draft deferments, the 4 indictments, the 2 impeachments, the 2 convictions at the company level. You have to ignore that he had a fake university that shut down. You have to ignore that a fake charity that he had was shut down. You have to ignore a $25 million fraud settlement. You have to ignore a $5 million sexual abuse verdict. You have to ignore a $2 million fake charity abuse judgment. You have to ignore $93 million in sexual abuse judgments against him. You have to ignore a $400 million fraud judgment. You have to ignore 4,000 lawsuits that he was involved in prior to running for office. And that's just scratching the surface. That's not a comprehensive list. What did he do when he was in office? He was the first president in the history of the presidency to serve a full term and increase the deficit every year he was in office. He was the first president in history to maintain a debt to GDP ratio over 100% for his entire term. He had the highest annual budget deficit. He's the president that added the most national debt in a single term. He had the most new unemployment claims, and he had the largest single-day point drop in the history of the Dow Jones. On top of that, he had the longest government shutdown in history, and this was at a time where he had both the Senate and the House under Republican control. He was the first president in the history of approval ratings to maintain a net negative approval rating for his entire term. He was the first president to be impeached twice. He was the first president to have bipartisan support for his conviction after impeachment, which happened both times. And he has the record for having the most indictments, guilty pleas, and criminal convictions for members of his administration. First president to have a mugshot, and first president to ever try to overthrow the government. And again, that is not a comprehensive list. That gives you an idea of all the things that Trump voters deliberately ignored in order to vote for him. And what's interesting about all of that is that after taking all of that into account, all of that added up to a presidency that was an utter failure. A presidency that resulted in an economy that was worse than the economy that Herbert Hoover created. So, Trump voters, knowing all of that, ignored every single thing and pulled the lever for him. And what are some of those Trump voters doing now? They're crying and whining about how this isn't what they expected. This isn't what they voted for. This is exactly what you voted for. The presidency that you've seen since Inauguration Day, the chaos that you've seen since Inauguration Day, the carnage that's being done since Inauguration Day, this is exactly what you voted for. You voted because you thought that he was going to go after the people that you hate, when in fact, he hates you as well. And that's why he's putting in the policies that he's putting in. You really thought, after ignoring all of those things, that this was a person that cared about you? You really thought that this was a person that really was looking out for your best interests? You realize that there's a reason why there are so many billionaires in his cabinet, right? These people are not looking out for your welfare. They're looking to steal everything that isn't nailed down so that you don't even have crumbs to fight over. That's what you voted for. You were just too stupid to realize that you're not in the in crowd either. He tolerated you to get to power, and now that he has power, you're nothing but dirt to him as well. Congratulations, MAGA. Hope you enjoy.